Uh,
All right, welcome to F1 Fanatics. A lot of people pissed off at Ferrari. Roman's pissed off. Cooley's just laughing. I don't care, man. But I do care about this show we're about to do. So there's so many things we have to unwrap about Ferrari. I just put away my notes. There's no point. We'll start with the starting point of A spec, B spec, which I think is a monumental waste of resources. They're going to have an A and B
Oh
spec
yeah.
doing practices before they come up with their final model to inform their final model. And I guess apparently, if you have the A spec, I don't know which one. I think A spec is for Hamilton, right? Yeah.
Now, A
Oh,
spec
A
is for
spec
the
is
engine itself,
Oh, A spec.
for
No,
the
but there's
engine
something else where
specifically.
they have an A spec and a B spec where one of them is going to be the pointy sort of pointy what's the word that they
That
use?
would
Yeah,
be the B spec. That would be the B
yeah,
spec.
yeah, that's the B spec. And the A spec will be the one that's more stable in the back that Hamilton likes and everything. And then from what they get the result, they'll use it to inform. To me, it's what they're trying to do, make meld a guy that's somewhere in the middle ground between Hamilton and Leclerc. And it's not going to work that way because once they do the testing and stuff, the final model that comes out may not be a melding of the both of the different things because we know that in physics and in engineering, once you put all those variables in, it may come up with something that doesn't please either of them. Because I think
Basically.
Hamilton he's thinking too linearly. He thinks that if you put a car that's part this one is pointy and this one is more to the rear stability or whatever has more understeer. That altogether when you do the testing is going to lead to something that merges into something that pleases both. But we don't know that because we don't know the variables. It can lead to something that neither driver likes. What do you think, Roman? Yeah.
Certainly, but the problem with Ferrari's approach is that it's fundamentally wrong on what they're doing. On paper, it's like brilliant, right? Because you get so much time preparing for your aerodynamics while your engine is running on track, so you can get engine data because there's an engine regulation as well. So, on paper, it sounds brilliant, but problem with Ferrari is that the combination of both of them always screws up. The engine is not stable enough for the aero package. The aero package is not stable on its own. They can't determine that until unless both are running at the same time, and they can't get proper feedback from both drivers if both of them can't drive the same package. You see the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because both drivers have to drive the same package, so engineers get the same data, and the engine needs to be integrated into the chassis alongside with the aerodynamics.
Yeah. So it's
Otherwise,
two
it doesn't
separate
work
data
properly.
points, two separate streams of data, and you're not looking at it holistically. Yeah. I don't
Not,
have much
not
to
to
say.
mention,
Continue. Yeah.
not to
It doesn't make
mention,
sense. Yeah.
Ferrari did this once, 2014. We know how that turned out. Absolute abysmal. They did the same. They tried to run the Mercedes strategy, run two cars, one for the
Yeah.
engine,
Mercedes
one for
did
the
that in
aerodynamics.
2021. They did that in 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, they did in 2021 as well. That kind of worked out because there was an engine freeze. So Ferrari just basically ran the aerodynamics twice. Hence, in
Mhm.
2022, they were on par or better than Red Bull at the beginning because there's an engine freeze. So they couldn't develop the engine. So they just had some reliability parts to it and left to it. They just focused on aerodynamics. And we saw how much an improvement it was. And seeing last season, the engine was okay, right? It was still blowing up, but at the same time, the aerodynamics were just suffered, right? The drivers could not optimize what they were driving. Only Charles Leclerc went on an extreme setups, right? Was pushing the car to the absolute brim, almost like Verstappen, oversteered to the maximum and driving it. Lewis can't do that. And this season, they shot themselves on the foot, where both drivers prefer something entirely different, and you're doing a car which works differently entirely. So where are you going to get the data developed? Not to mention, they're missing 3 days of the shakedown in Barcelona. For what exactly?
They
You
had
only
one
get
today,
2 days
right?
worth
Yeah.
of engine testing on track. So they are already on the back foot to begin with, right? They're already on the back foot to begin with. Either they
Yeah.
have to put all the eggs on the engine, or they have to make sure the aero package is basically god tier.
Yeah.
If
So hold
if
on.
anything
So here's what
fails,
I
they're
got for my
fucked.
notes. So they're making A spec and B spec configuration for Ferrari is reportedly building two different chassis. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just
That's
an
what I'm
engine.
saying.
Yeah, it's not just an engine. So two different chassis. I just want to clarify that. Yeah, sorry, continue. Then we'll go to Kunle. I'll give you like
Yeah,
30
I'm done
seconds. I know
speaking.
you want to
I'm
go
more to
30
else to
minutes.
speak, but for
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
this is this.
Oh yeah, what are your thoughts, Kunle, about this whole thing? A spec versus B
well,
spec chassis
you know,
and
I
everything.
mean, I'm actually going to defend Ferrari on this. I mean, I know I've heard everyone talk about the history of what's gone wrong, but I think that for them it's a strategic necessity because for Formula One teams, enabling them to navigate the radical new rules and the changes that will effectively manage the risks associated with entirely new car concepts. And
Oh, man.
I'm looking at they want to there are things they want to do. They want to prioritize the reliability of the car. They want to mitigate the uncertainty. They're looking at a phase development and a cost cap management. Under the
Well, this is already abusing the cost management because it's wasting resources, which should be unified on testing one concept. So they're already wasting. They're not going over the cost cap, but now they're splitting their resources.
Well, I think they're trying to focus their resources on late performance upgrades that will constitute final race spec
Yeah, but
for the
but but
car.
but by having two different chassis, you're now narrowing the data for the overall final one because it's two different split. And also, each data point is within the context of that chassis with the way it works in the engine. And how are they going to now? They don't have the data or the testing to find out what the final model is going to be. So that's a data issue too. Am I wrong, Roman?
Yeah.
This also
You're
means
What
that
they've
absolutely
tried
right.
to do with
You're
the A and
absolutely
B
right.
spec, they've
yeah,
tried
but
to
clearly what I'm
cater
saying is
each
that this is a
car.
bad strategy that they're using. And the strategy that they should use is to decide what their concept is going to be. Then they
Yeah,
cater
I
to the
understand what you're
drivers.
saying.
Yeah, it's to later
What I'm
on
saying is
you
that
set up to
what they're
what
trying
you
to
do is
do
you
so what they're trying to do is I can compare it to what Red Bull are trying to do, which is focus on one car specifically. But they're trying to give that extra attention they gave to
yeah,
the
clearly,
two
but they're not
cars
focusing on but here's the
independently of
difference.
each other.
But here they're not focusing on one car because they're having two different chassis, which will determine the one car. But that's the wrong methodology for the car. Because Red Bull will only be testing one spec. They're testing two.
And upgrading it throughout the
Yeah.
season.
That's not efficient. They just need to, you know what it is? Hamilton wants a car that suits him, and what's his name wants another car that suits him in the configuration. Either
Charles Leclerc.
they should have just started out with a concept which appeases both of them, or go one way. I would say make it slightly pointy and cater to Leclerc. To me he's the number one driver. Make it slightly, and then afterwards Hamilton can make changes in his setup to suit him. What do you think, Roman? Yeah.
Certainly. But here's the thing I want to have a counter to Kunle is that this strategy that Ferrari is trying and whatever you're saying is correct on paper, but it only works out if they stick with this strategy and concept for the entire period of the regulation. This entire relies on Ferrari sticking to their guns with this concept for entire regulation period. If they don't, and they don't, as history has shown us, they keep changing the goddamn concept every single year as some weird obsession. This is basically for nothing. Whatever they do now will amount to nothing if they change the concept next year again. And for all likely chance, they probably will because they're
And
going to
not
get
only
the
that,
engine
Roman,
reset.
They would also throughout the season they'd have to continue with testing of A spec and B spec separately again as they're working on the other one. You get my point. So it starts to add more and more variables. And like what you said, then we'll go
Not
back to Kunle.
really. Not
Yeah, we'll go
really.
back to what you said. But even if if they finally have the final concept, okay, you're saying they'll have to stick to it. Well, they're not going to change mid-season. They will stick to it for this year.
Yeah, but it's null and void for next year, though.
Yeah,
That's
but
my
my only
problem.
argument is that it by doing this A spec B spec thing, right? That's not the method which you should use to determine what your model should be because they're in isolation with different factors. So that's bad for real world data. To tell you what the ultimate, you understand what I'm trying to say? You can't
Yeah.
you can't homologate two different specs together and say this is now the homologation. It's not going to work. That's not how you do in real world in anything, whether it's psychology or whether it's engineering or whether it's statistics. If or whether it's, for example, medical science, you don't take two different things and say, "Oh, look at how this one did and look at how this one did. Now let's find a statistical mean." That doesn't work because you'd have to be able to predict how that mean would work also over time, and they're not testing that during the off season. Do you see what I'm saying?
Another problem with that is what they're trying to do is they're trying to run the A spec for the entire shakedown and for Bahrain run a B spec to then test the aerodynamics. And later they hope is that they get enough data, mind you, big hope, that they get enough data and enough calculation and manufacturing done for Melbourne so the final spec can be done and they can develop it. The problem
There's
with
not
that
enough
is
time. There's not
There's not
enough
enough
time.
So
time.
that sounds like they're going to sacrifice the first two races.
But
And
not
then
only
Not
that,
start
even
Kool-Aid,
that.
Kool-Aid, not
Even
only
that.
that, think about this, Kool-Aid. Think about this. The other teams determined their model and configuration long ago. And so they've been working. Now they'll get their model configuration and they won't be able to test it. They won't be able to test the new model. It's going to be tested through the season. So that means they're about 8 weeks behind.
Well,
Yeah,
I
another
can
part
understand why they
performance.
want to experiment with the first two races because everybody's experimenting in the first two
No, yeah, I
races
understand what you're
because
saying,
everything is new to them.
but other teams will have they already have their model. Ferrari
Yeah,
doesn't
but
even
They
have
have
their
a
model
models
yet.
mature
may or
design
may
at
not
least. They have a
fail when
mature
they
idea
come
of
in and
it.
they may have to adjust. So what Ferrari is doing is like, since it's new, yes, we can get it wrong, but yes, the other
Yeah, but
teams can
Kool-Aid, you're
get
not
it
listening
wrong.
to what I'm
So
saying.
let me give myself two options that
Kool-Aid,
can
what I'm
get
trying to say
wrong,
is they don't even
and then in
know
the
what their
third
model is
race,
going to
I'll
be yet.
start.
Kool-Aid, but you're not listening to what I'm saying. They don't even know what the model that they will be testing on the season is yet. That means they're weeks behind in the process. Because during the season, you want to be testing your model that you've known you were going to have 2 months ago. They don't even know what the model is. So they're not going to have enough data because they'll be testing, what they'll be doing during the season first week is what other teams were doing during the shakedown and other times. You get my point? So they're going to
Yes,
be
I
Getting
get your
double the
further
point. They're
back.
work.
going to be a
Yeah.
couple
Getting
of
double
weeks
the work.
behind.
Eight
But they're
weeks.
also
8 weeks,
looking at
which means that this
they're
season is
looking at the
over for
gaps.
them.
They're looking at the
I won't say
gaps
it's
between
over.
what they're looking at is the gaps between those 2 weeks, between
It's
each of those first
Roman,
two
I would
races
argue
to
that it's
catch
over.
up
They're
on
not
the
going to
time.
beat Mercedes and McLaren, especially McLaren, which has the best methodology. They're not going to beat them like this. Sorry, go ahead, Kunle.
Yeah, I think that what they don't mind giving ground because they don't mind giving ground in those first 2 weeks because they know that
But it's going to be
they'll be
more,
behind
Kunle.
on it.
Every week
But
they're going to be
eventually,
behind. Other teams are
Steph,
also
hold
yes,
on, hold
testing.
on, hold on. Steph, hold on.
Yeah.
Let him explain. Let him explain
yes,
what he's trying
I'm
to say.
not disputing that they're going to be behind. What I'm saying is that yes, they're going to be behind, but since everyone else is also experimenting at the same time, they've given themselves two
And that's where your
experiments.
premise is
Hold
wrong.
on. Just hold
No,
on.
no,
Just
they've
hold
given
on.
themselves two experiments.
You're actually
They're
saying what you
behind
said before.
because they're doing two experiments at the same time on the racetrack. Now, if one of them
That's not what they're going to be doing on the
excels,
racetrack.
they're taking a risk. If one of these experiments excels, either in Bahrain or in Melbourne, then they've got something to work with. If not, then by race three, they're now trying to catch up on the weeks that they lost behind to try to focus on one car in order to compete. I think that they're taking a risk. Ferrari are a team that take
It's bigger
risks
than
all
risk.
the
What they're
time.
doing is they're rolling the dice, Kool-Aid, because they're going
Yeah,
to be
yeah, that's why it's
behind.
the same
Kool-Aid,
thing.
they're going to be
Now,
Rolling the
hold
behind
on.
dice,
because
the
they're
risk.
going to
Now,
be
hold on,
behind
hold on.
because it's like schizophrenia. This is what you said
Saints
earlier,
had
and
never won
I'm showing you the
fairly.
fallacy in what you're saying. They're going to be do like even though what you're saying is wrong. They're dual testing at the beginning of the season. That means they haven't even come up with their model. After week three, they still haven't decided their model. Meanwhile, other teams are 6 to 8 weeks ahead in the evolutionary phase. And the only way it will pay off of them is like what they always do if they roll a dice and they get lucky. They're hoping they're getting lucky. You can't win in F1 by luck. This is how they change 99% of their car and their front suspension. This is the same thing they're doing. They're taking risks and then testing them in the future when other teams have already determined 6 or 8 weeks ago what they were doing. What do you have to say, Kunle?
Remember that they'd also focused and started working on the 2026 car during the 2025 season when they'd written it off early.
And yet they
They
still don't have a
started working
concept.
on it early.
And yet they still don't have
So,
a concept.
well, let's see what they've got because
They
obviously
don't have a
they're
concept
going to
right
have
now
some.
because they're trying to determine what their concept is. Other teams have had their concept long ago. Their
I wouldn't say
methodologies
don't have
suck.
a concept. What I'm saying is that it's not mature yet. It's not a
They don't
mature
have a
concept.
model. They don't have a model because they have to do the A spec, B spec first. So they don't even know what their model will be.
It's not a matured one. That's what I can say.
Yeah.
Before we
Well,
continue,
I think that they're going to choose between the two,
Oh,
and they're
yes, they
just going
will,
to
but they don't even know
yeah.
they're in the dark. They're in the dark as to what their mature model is going to be. They don't know now.
built in
Oh,
the
Ferrari,
dark.
what's your mature model going to be? Oh, we don't know yet. It's immature. We don't know yet. Is it going to be like a woman who just got impregnated? Going to be a boy or girl? I don't know. I don't know
Okay,
yet.
but what about the
It's
other
still a
cars that have
zygote.
got a
It's still
model?
a
What
zygote.
about the
Is it
other
a
cars
boy?
that have
Okay,
got a
okay,
model
calm down.
and
Both
then
of you,
they
calm
come
down.
out in the first race or two and their
Okay,
models
Kool-Aid,
are completely off?
once again, I'm going to go on at least, Kool-Aid. We'll see who's right or wrong. I was right 2 years ago. We'll see again. What you're saying to try to justify them, it's not going to work. It's clownish what they're doing. Let's
Before we
call it.
go
These guys are
off,
clowns, man. Go ahead. Yeah,
there's what Kunle is saying can work in a vacuum. If there's an infinite budget, there's no infinite budget, there's a cost cap. Even though the cost cap has increased, Ferrari cannot do much in this cost cap. Don't forget, by May or July, they have to stop the production on the SF26. They have to focus on SF27 by month of July or something, because the car has to go off the wind tunnel for the next year as well. They can't just focus on this year and say fuck off next year, right? They have to build for next year as well. And for what I know, they probably abandon this concept by the end of the year anyway, even if it's a successful concept. They have to focus on new concepts. So what I'm trying to say is there's no carryover data which makes sense for
And
next year.
not only that, Roman, even if they had infinite resources, they don't have infinite time. They have finite time. And that's the problem. This is time exhaustive for them. And by the time race 6, this is the same thing that happened to them last year, where they had a model that they didn't know how it worked. Remember, they didn't get their specs, they didn't get their Monza car in time. Remember last year? They didn't get it by Monza or the other Italian Grand Prix. They didn't have
Imola, right? You're talking about?
Yeah, Imola. They didn't have it. It's for the same reason, because they were still trying to figure out their new concept that they had with changing everything. And they're doing the same thing. They're working in the dark right now, and they're going to be too far behind. And then, after, like you said, after week 6 or 8, it's time to start thinking about next year. And what this does is it leads to an avalanche in which throughout the next 5 years, they're going to always be behind. What do you think, Kunle?
Have you seen that meme that Ferrari made, built in the dark, driven in the light? The Ferrari meme. It sounds like that.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen, Kunle. I'm making that prediction. So what are your thoughts? That's what's going to happen. They're going to be behind because they keep changing.
I'm betting with you.
The reason why I don't think it's going to be as severe as you predict is, again, because everything is new to everyone. It's a road of discovery. If we're going by the normal rules, 5 years ago, and it was next year and next year and next year, I wouldn't say anything. You're 100% right. But
sorry, I just want to say this very quickly. But they're breaking. Let me say one last thing, then I'll shut up. They're breaking rules of methodology, though. No matter changes of different periods, their methodology is wrong. It's like you said, they're assuming infinite space of time. They're behind in time. They don't have a concept. Those are universals that you have to take through any rubric ground. Go ahead. That's all I'll say for today.
Well, all I can say about competition and wars is that you always fight, you always lose if you fight the last war with the same weapons. So, since it's a brave new world, despite everything that you've said, and I've taken that on board, it is a brave new world. And
it's a brave new world, and McLaren knows what the world looks like. They know what the world looks like because they've been testing a concept for weeks longer, so they know the terrain of that world better than Ferrari. That's why I say this is methodological. If you ask McLaren what the world looks like now, they have a clearer picture than Ferrari. Ferrari is still in the cave doing like this. They don't even know what it looks like.
Everybody has a plan, so they get punched in the face.
And so far that has been. And so far, but here's the thing, Kunle, here's the wrong thing, because you know what it is?